It's a beautiful and, of course, an exciting Monday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues as it concerns you and I in this continent. The program Africa Discourse. I am Wilson Marshall. Today is all about border control, effective border check, socio-economic and political impact in Africa. That is what we are taking a look at today. You think Nigeria is the only country in Africa that chooses to partially close their border? Well, the information is not totally correct. If you go to Eritrea, between Ethiopia, if you go to Rwanda, go to Kenya, you go to Sudan, you get to see border check, the closure of borders just to make one or two things end meet positively. Yes, there are some backlash in this regard, why some persons are of the opinion that this should be what we should have done in the first instance. Many people are asking so much questions about it. How is it affecting the common man? When I talk about the common man, I'm talking about the masses. Is it really affecting them positively or negatively in these African countries? Now, if you go down these African countries that choose to practice this, the economy is not that buoyant. The policy is biting so hard on the people. They are complaining, but the government in those countries are like saying, this is the right thing to do. Let's bear the brunt for a while. It's for you to be better, your future to be brighter. But if you can salvage today, what hope is there for the future? Now that's a question on the lips of so many. With me here in the studio to do justice in this discourse, I have a legal practitioner, a political analyst, public affairs commentator. Join me to welcome Barrister Louis Ojomo. Barrister, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comment.
Thank you for having me.
I was still expecting another legal practitioner in the person of Mrs. Edovogo Eboigbe. When she comes into the studio, she's going to throw her own opinions and, of course, her view on this particular discourse. So, Barrister, Nigeria is not the only country in Africa practicing partial closure of the borders, trying to give that effective check in what comes in and what goes out of the country. Other African nations also, they are practicing it. Why now?
I don't think why now should be the question. I think the question should be why not? Because every country, to be a sovereign nation, there are certain attributes that you must have. And in this material particular, you must have a defined territory. That is one of the things that makes a country. You have a defined territory. You have borders. You are in a map. And that map shows the borders of your country. You must control it. If you have a piece of land, you have 100 by 100, you have a survey plan, you have borders. That is what your survey plan is. And in order to secure your land, you may build a fence that allows you to control ingress, the in and out, the movement in and out of your property. I'm just trying to break it down. When we say, why do we need border control for a country? Why do you need to secure your 100 by 100? That is the same question that we are asking. So the reason for border control is one, that you must be able to police your boundaries, control the human beings that enter your country, the human beings that leave your country, the goods and services that enter your country, the goods and services that leave your country, the animals that move in and out of your country, the illegalities that happen at your borders, the crops that enter your country, the food products that leave your country. These are all the issues when we talk about border control that are involved. Everybody knows, if you go to Saple Road here, you see a lot of cars, used cars from abroad. Where are they coming from? They are coming from outside the country. How do they come in? What are the issues regarding immigration? What are the issues regarding customs? These are issues that concern your borders. Recently, we've been hearing a lot about rice, bags of rice products coming in from all areas in the country, from the north, from the south. How are these products coming in into the country? Is duty being paid? Is the government making money from having goods coming to the country? We've been talking about cows in Nigeria now for quite a while. Cows everywhere. These cows that are entering the country, the borders that they are entering through, are they being policed? Are the cows being taxed? Is the government generating revenue from the cows that are entering Nigeria? How many cows enter Nigeria per week, per month, per year? What is the revenue loss? What is the revenue accruing from all of these goods, products, and services coming into Nigeria? This is why you must have effective border control.
All right, well, talking about effective border control, that is what we're taking a look at right now. And we're taking a look at Africa as a continent. You get to hear, you've seen the clip already, truckloads of goods being stopped from entering into a particular country. In Eritrea, it's the same story. Kenya, Rwanda, Sudan, Liberia, you just name it. It's just the same old story. It's like the hype is becoming more and more real. It's getting more and more serious. Every country is like taking this border issue so seriously. And the question is also, why now? But Barrister Oluwejimo talked about why not? Anyway, just join us right here in the studio. I've already introduced her, another legal practitioner. Yes, Mrs. Adoro Eboigbe, welcome to the show. Madam, appreciate your comment.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now you've heard Barrister Louis Ojomo. He spoke at length saying this is what should be done. You need to know what is coming in and going out of your country. He gave examples also of some cartels finding their way into Nigeria from where there seems to be no record of that, and some other goods and services, also talking about cars, food items, and all of that. The big question now is, why now? Why is it getting so serious in Africa as a continent? Because Nigeria is not the only country practicing partial border closure even for this very moment.
Well, it's imminently necessary now for African countries and even Nigeria to maintain effective border monitoring, because you can see the proliferation of different kinds of arms and ammunitions in the countries. These are issues of security threats. You can see the increase in crime, insurgency in diverse parts of the world. All this has to do with what? The porous nature of our borders. Illegal immigrants coming to the country, weapons, drugs, prohibited items all entering into the country because our borders are what? Porous. But where there is effective monitoring, you can actually account for the individuals that are migrating into your country. You can account for the number of items that are allowed to come into your country. And of course, this also has to do with issues of revenue generation, because when the borders are porous, goods come in and go, there's a lot of what revenue loss within the country. Oil is being smuggled out of the country, food items are being smuggled out of the country without the government getting what the requisite tax is supposed to get on these items. And then when the borders are porous, you cannot manage, you cannot effectively control the weapons coming into the country. Like Nigeria now, you can see the astronomical increase in crime. All of these are directly linked to what? Our porous borders, because different people coming with all sorts of items into the country, they hide these weapons in food items and all that, and at the end of the day, they land in the country, and then you have crime everywhere, which is now difficult to control. But with effective border monitoring, effective border control, we time all these things with what? Put in check. So you can see that at this point in time, because of the nature of our security issues, because of a nature of a loss of revenue, it's now imminent that what? Our borders are monitored. And I feel this is one major landmark achievement of our present administration, the closure of Nigerian borders. You can now see for yourself the amount of monies being what? Generated within the country within this short period of time that they have what? Effectively close the borders. And at the end, all these things have positive impacts in the long run. Of course, in the short run, there are a lot of falls and downsides to this. You can see the increase in prices of goods and services, increase in foodstuff. But in the long run, it will allow the country to look inwards and build its own manpower, build its manufacturing industry, develop its farming industry, and at the end of the day, the country will now become self-sustainable. So I feel it's good and it's eminent in our present-day society that all countries of the world, because of the nature of crime, you have suicide bombings, terrorism all over, you cannot afford to let your borders be porous any longer. For the purpose of securing the lives and welfare of your citizens is necessary.
All right, if you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. We're taking a look at effective border check in African countries. Yes, in Africa, taking a look also at the socio-economic and political impact. We're trying to take a look at overall effect of the border closure or border check, so to speak. And many persons or people, even the citizens of some countries in Africa, they are complaining bitterly about this. Now, she talked about the long run. What about the short run? After all, if you can survive in the short run, that is how your future is guaranteed. So how are they going to go about it, the short run? Well, the talk about the hike. He talked about the hike inflation of goods and services. Well, let's talk about also that locally manufactured product is more expensive than the ones that are being imported.
Yes, my learned friend was very correct in all that he said. She said, you know, if we are going to talk for 24 hours, we will keep saying the correct things because there are so many things that are wrong. We just pick a little sector and we try to dissect it. Nigeria, of course, must, in the short run, effectively monitor her borders. Not the closure of the borders is not the solution. You know, it's like saying, let us stop eating because, you know, we need to control the amount of food in our compound. So we will stop eating first. We will take stock of what food there is before. You will die before you finish your survey. Nigeria, first of all, needs to secure its boundaries. As we've closed the borders now, Wilson, imported goods are still entering Nigeria. Is that not so? So the closure is not effective. Water finds its level. So as they've closed the borders, the unmanned expanse of Nigeria's territory is busy as we are speaking. So when the television cameras go to the borders, showing that they have closed it, listen, as I talk to you, places in Badagry are busy. A month ago, about 3 months ago, I just happened to be in Badagry. I was astounded at the number of motorcycles with bags of rice, daylight, not at night, that were zooming past me per minute. Where are these bags of rice going? Where are they coming? Last week in the media, we also heard about things that were happening up north. The same scenario, motorcycles with bags of rice, zooming from A to B. Meanwhile, borders are closed. So it is quite clear. The evidence is overwhelming that it is not the closure of the borders that is important. Nigeria needs to effectively man the entire borders. And the way other countries are doing it, you see, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has been invented. You just acquire it or you modify. We need to be able to invest into boundary patrol. Other countries are doing it by investing in light aircraft to patrol their boundaries. In the waterways, we invest in boats, fast patrol boats, to police our borders. Then, of course, land. Nigeria is such a vast country, as you know. Eastern borders, northern borders, western, southern borders, all of these need injection of funds. And then we need to create one agency that looks after our border. Currently, any person traveling out of Nigeria, maybe in the last year, would have noticed that as you put your luggage in for a check, you will have NDLA will check your bag. On the same counter, police will check your bag. Immigration will check your bag. Customs will check your bag. Ministry of Agric will check your bag. Ministry of Health will check your bag. Only one bag. All of these agencies will check. They move it from table to table. This one will tell you, this one, what is it? One person properly trained, a border agency guard, is sufficient to look into just one single bag. In doing that, you will save money. Instead of having 7 agency officials checking one bag, you save money. 2, duplication of duties. What is police, soldier, DSS? We will have EFCC. EFCC is also at the counter, checking one bag. All of these people are being paid out of Nigeria's resources. Let us look at countries like the UK or America or Australia. They have what is called the border agency. In England, you have the border force. In America, you have the border protection. These are agents. They do what the Navy will do. They do what the Air Force will do. They do what the police will do. They do what customs will do. They do what immigration will do. All of these things is just one agency under the Home Office. So our Ministry of Interior in Nigeria could set up a border agency, border guard. And the job of these people is to control the in and coming in, going out of goods and people within Nigeria. Let us invest in aircrafts that will patrol our borders. We invest in boats that will patrol our waterways. And then, like Donald Trump has done in Mexico, we build a wall. We build a fence around Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't have any boundary. The only way we know that Nigeria has a boundary is what the Mongo Park and Co. and the British Empire, what they drew as Nigeria. Have you ever seen a boundary between here and Cotonou? Have you seen you are maybe 100 by 100, you have a wall, you have a fence in your house, so your neighbor, you know where your neighbor's property ends and yours start. We don't know where Nigeria begins and where it ends. Nigeria needs to effectively create visible boundaries, because if you do not have visible boundaries, you cannot control the territory. It's impossible. You know, you hear people say, oh, well, you are bringing your car, don't bring it through Tinkan, take it to Cotonou. And then they would drive it. You know, you have specialist drivers who bring these things in through. And, you know, this is Nigeria. Let us be honest with ourselves. If you don't control your borders, you cannot control what is happening. Like my learned friend rightly said just now, we have seen news reports of AK-47s being brought in from Mali, being brought in from Libya. Those things enter Nigeria without checks, because our borders are porous. Tomorrow they will bring an atomic bomb into Nigeria. You would know. After all, so many years ago, toxic waste was dumped in cocoa.
Yes.
It came all the way through the waterways into cocoa. When the person who ordered it was not there to receive it, they dumped it in the pot. Toxic waste. Nobody knew, nobody checked. This is the kind of porosity that we have in our borders.
Right.
Tomorrow we will have diseases, we have anthrax, we have all kinds of things being brought into the country. We don't know where all these things are coming from. So it is important that Nigeria, and we are not criticizing the government, please. Anybody watching this needs to understand. This is not an APC, PDP thing. We are talking about how Nigeria is going to survive.
Right.
That is all that we need. Successive governments have not been doing it.
Okay.
So
all right.
let us be very aware.
I'll come back to you, but it interests you to know out there that this is not only a Nigerian thing. Other countries are beginning to wake up, beginning to put more emphasis on their borders. Everyone's trying to check what comes in or what goes out of their country, especially in Africa. It seems to be like a wake-up call. The Eastern Bloc, the Western Bloc, the Northern Bloc, the Southern Bloc, you just name it, they're all taking care of their border. It's like the border patrol thing or check is what is in vogue right now in Africa as a continent. Now let's come to the common man. Now, people like saying what is really getting them a little bit anxious about this border check is that the common man is worst hit. After we talked about the long term, they're talking about the short term. Let's survive now to face the future. Why is it that most of the time food items are what hit in this scenario?
Well, it's a natural occurrence when you have incidents like this where the borders are closed, because ordinarily our consumption rates, our production rate within the country is not enough to meet up with Nigerians or the country's consumption rate, and this gap is filled by what imports coming into the country. So when you have blocked imports, naturally the limited resources, the price will naturally go up. That's just what happens in the case of rice. In the case of rice, ordinarily a larger portion of the consumption comes from what imports. Now you have stopped imports. Naturally, there's an increased pressure in the local resources, in the local rice, and therefore there must be what a correlating hike in price. And this hike in price is what affects the common man, because at the end of the day, salaries and wages have not conversely been increased in line with what the astronomical hike in price. Some goods have actually increased to about 50%, 25%, and all of that. So if you suddenly close the borders and you stop imports of these goods, meanwhile local production is not enough to feed the teeming capacity of citizens within your country, you will naturally but have an increase in prices of goods and services. And the common man whose income has not increased to meet up with this, what will now be what at the receiving end, and that is what is taking place in our country. And then when you look at issues of stopping or prohibiting the importation of food items, these items they are not really items for criminal activities when you want to look at it fairly and solely. And I feel that these things should be done what in a more constructive way. Let me tell you, if the quality of our local rice is seriously improved to a corresponding standard as that of the foreign rice, and the prices of our local rice is actually considerably lower than that of foreign rice, you will not tell the common man, you will not tell the average man who is trying to survive to go and buy local rice. But the standard of our local rice is seriously what reduced in relation to that of the foreign rice, and then you are now forcing people to buy the local rice. You can see the prices of local rice are seriously increased. You can now buy a bag of local rice for as high as 18,000, while foreign rice is now like 25,000. So in this short term, you have not really helped the plight, the sufferings of the common man. And I feel it is inequitable when you put a sudden ban on these goods. Meanwhile, other things like medical tourism, we have not put a ban on those things. But the one that the masses enjoy, this foreign rice, like me as an individual, I find it very difficult to eat local rice because the quality is not good enough. You can't compare to that of the foreign rice. And if the quality was good enough, nobody will tell me to buy local rice. So you're putting difficulties. And when these policies should be done in line with what public opinions. Rice is not something that is going to cause any crime in society. So these are things that should be done gradually, not suddenly. Is this sudden blocking, this sudden stopping and closure of our borders is what has just caused this sudden hike in prices of goods and services. And as I want to say, to effectively manage our borders, it's not just enough to just prohibit. You must have what? Walls. You must have effective patrol, because as I'm telling you, even up till now, things are still being smuggled into the country. Illegal immigrants are still coming into the country, and that is one of the banes and major challenges of our security situation in Nigeria. Most of these issues of a herdsmen attack and all that, when you go and ask seriously, they may tell you these herdsmen are not Nigerians. So how did they come into the country? Because one, we have what very, very porous borders. We have ineffective monitoring of our borders and our boundaries. These are the major issues the government should be looking at. The government should not seriously be concerned as they're looking at rice. He can put in more resources to improving the quality. For heaven's sake, a country like Nigeria, Africa, why can't our rice quality be as good as that you get from Italy, Spain, and all of that? Why? Why can't we put resources into our agricultural industry and improve the quality of our local produce and see if Nigerians will not patronize it? Because at the end of the day, you are putting this border closure is just affecting the common man. The man at the top echelon of the ladder financially, we still go abroad for medical tourism. We still do his shopping abroad. What law is now checking that person? I feel in a society you should have what? Equality among human beings. What is good for A should be good for B, irrespective of your financial status. So to effectively monitor our borders, to achieve our aim, we should have effective monitoring patrol. We should not have corrupt monitoring members. Because once there is still that element of corruption, it's just a matter to find the price and still bring in what these prohibited goods and services into the country. And all of these have what very endemic impacts on the Nigerian's economy, on the political stability, on the country's security. Security now is a major concern in this country. Lives and property are greatly at risk every day in this country because of what? Foreign individuals that we don't even have their particulars that are presently resident in our country. You see the way they bring in different cattle, you see the way they bring in weapons, you see the way they bring in different kinds of things. As presently, we cannot even account for the number of illegal products presently in our country because our borders are not effectively manned. This our learned colleague is well traveled, and he gave good examples. Our politicians, they travel a lot. Most of these foreign countries, they have walls. They have walls, they have effective monitoring patrol teams. We do not have that in our country. So it's not just enough to close the borders. When you close the borders, corrupt individuals will still find their way to come in through various creeks and corners and come into the country, so that those illegal products will still be there. And at the end of the day, it's only the masses that will suffer the brunt of this border closure, which I feel is not fair.
All right, thank you so much. It's all about effective border check in Africa, socio-economic and political impacts for this moment, for this time being, for the short term. Before we talk about the long term, how is it affecting us as Africans, various countries, economically, politically, socially, the impact of effective border check in Africa? We want to go for a break. When we return, we'll push this discussion a little bit further. Do stay with us.
Stranded.
To search, the thrill, to grab, it's all about Miss ITV Hot Leg Beauty Pageant and ITV Radio Fashion on the Runway 2019. Are you pretty, intelligent, good looking, and you've got what it takes to be the next beauty queen? Then go get your form now for free to contest for Miss ITV Hot Leg Beauty Pageant 2019. Wow, it's getting better, bigger. 15 years is standing and it's rolling. You can get your form now for the following places: Independent Television and Radio, Glass as Effort Road, Benin City, or Beauty Event, Multimedia and Modeling Agency, number 10 Hyphen Street off Ikiwan Road, Benin City, and be a local winner of our car and autumn taxi. I live fashion on the runway 2019. Are you a fashion designer? Do you run a fashion school or a fashion home? Then go take your form now for 5,000 naira to contest for ITV Radio Fashion on the Runway 2019.
Chairman on the occasion, Barrister Case Rabo, constitutional and human rights lawyer.
Audition day 8th of November 2019. Time 10 a.m. Venue Exclusive Home 2, Ihama Road, GRA, Benin City. Grand finale 1st of December 2019. Time red carpet 3 p.m. Main event 4 p.m. Venue at Lower Royal Holland Suite, Sample Road, Benin City.
This event is supported by Oviomo Foundation, helping to build a better society through numerous platforms.
Vive La Vive Boutique, sales of female and children clothing, shoes, bags and other accessories. 11A, West Uba Road, After Water Resources, and located at Market Square, Sapler Road, Benin City.
Fortune Skincare, 61 Adesua Grammar School Road, off Uba by Water Resources. The Bliss Hotel and Suites, 163 Punja Home Hotel Road, Benin City. And the Model Cooking Gas, 247 FM Way, Benin City. Wesley Premium Table Water, number 2, Wesley Street, Oka Community, off Benin Sapler Road, Benin City. Honorable Michael Izomo, CEO, St. Izomo Farm Organization.
Ogbe Motors Nigeria Limited, 202 Sapler Road, Benin City. Global Foods and Cinemas, 59 Urubi Street, Benin City. Samotaka Generators and Electronics, number 66 Wire Road, Benin City.
For sponsorship and participation, call this number 080-5656-3675 or 080-5673-3170. Miss ITV Hot Leg Beauty Pageant. Discover the beauty in you. ITV Radio Fashion on the Runway. Needle and thread. Creativity at its best.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. Off camera, getting more information that will beat you hollow. It makes you laugh, but these are serious matters. Yes, as Africans are trying to, make their borders more effective, so also as smugglers are trying to make their own scheme to beat security check of this border patrol, because they really want to get their goods and services into and out of a particular country, or some countries in Africa. They don't mind the costs. Now, effective border control. Yes, there are closures, partial closures, but somewhere along the line, these goods that are being prohibited from entering to the country or various countries in Africa still find their way into these countries. Take a look at Libya. They have their own border control, but still see guns find their way into Libya. Take a look at Egypt also. Despite the high-handedness, so to speak, right now of our Sisi, their president, guns, weapons find their way to the borders of Egypt. If you come to Nigeria, we all know the story. Why is it so?
No, you see, the truth of the matter is that we are talking about effective border control. It's not total border control. Even if you go to England today, there are migrants moving into England illegally. You will see on television, yes, people coming through the tunnel. Yes. And you will also notice in the same vein that those boats that are coming from Lampedusa, coming from Tunisia, from Morocco, from Malta, They are blocked and stopped. It's just that they have an immigration policy. It is the border control agencies on boats that are sometimes rescuing some of our sons and daughters who otherwise will become fish food in the Mediterranean. The countries are investing in boats. We see them on television every day. What do we think is happening? Where do we think those boats come from that rescue our sons and daughters? And then they take them to detention camps where they are processed. Those countries have effective border controls. They are investing money and time and resources. Then you have some charitable agencies, of course, who also invest in these resources to protect not only the borders, but also the immigrants that are coming in. You cannot stop illegal immigration. If you could, countries like America would be totally blocked. But the question is, there must be a higher percentage. My learned friend talked just now about foreigners, militants, coming into Nigeria from other countries. We even see them in trailers, on top of bags of goods. If you stay in Ekpoma, for example, for every 1 hour, you will see at least 4 of those trailers coming into Benin. Where are they coming from? For our brothers and sisters who are also going to Libya, where do they go? Do they fly? They don't fly. They're on the ground.
Exactly.
Those who are going through the desert, where is the desert? It's not in the sea, it's on land. Who is policing those places? The young boys who are coming in, that we call them jihadists or Fulani herdsmen or whatever, who are not Nigerians. Does the Immigration Service have a record of these people who come in? I had a Megad once who went out to go and buy food, and he was accosted by immigration, and they took the young man to their processing center. When I got the message, I went there. I found that what they are doing is that they just see these different looking people, they interview them. If you can't speak English, they collect you and take you to immigration, and they are waiting for the employer to come and bail them, so to speak. And my question to the officer was, why are you waiting until they have entered the country, they have gotten employment, before you say, oh, where's your paper? This monitoring should be done at the borders, where you stamp, you give them a particular paper,
permit,
you take their pictures, you take their biometrics. So if you arrest them tomorrow somewhere else, once you put their fingerprint, it brings out all their bio data. But then you see, in Nigeria, we shouldn't be surprised that this is happening. Whereas in Nigeria, we don't even have a criminal database, an effective criminal database. So if we don't even have things like that to look at our interior, I don't know how we are going to deal with the exterior, but we are all trying to make Nigeria a better country. The Ministry of Interior needs to really become very serious. Set up, I've said this, set up a border force, like other countries are doing. I'm not saying let us do it like other countries are doing because they are better than us. No, they have also had period of crisis with immigrants. Nigeria is only just now, in the last 10, 15 years, beginning to experience serious immigration. England, America, Australia, these countries for hundreds of years have been dealing with immigration. Our forefathers went to those countries. So they have been dealing with immigration. We should learn how they have been doing this thing. England, for example, used to have what they call the visa service. They had immigration service. They had the custom service. Today they have the border force. They have metamorphosed through trial and error. We also don't need to do trial and error. Pick up the formula that has been titrated and found to be workable, and then come and implement it here. So you have just the Home Office. And then you have the border force under the Home Office. It's just one agency. There's no multiplicity or duplicity of functionality. Then you also save money from your scarce resources by having one person that is trained to do all of the functions that all of these people do. So in those other countries, you still have the army, you still have the navy, you still have the air force. They are only concerned with external aggression. But as far as the interior and monitoring your borders, the border force takes care of this issue. So once we have an effective monitoring force like that, issue of people coming and bringing in guns, illegal immigrants coming into the country, people trafficking human beings, prostitution, all these ills, people bringing in fake drugs. These fake drugs come from somewhere. They pass through our borders. Some are coming across all the way from India, where you have the world's manufacturer of of fake drugs. They come from all these places. They come through our airports. People are actually passing them through. If you are bringing a vehicle into Nigeria, I want to use that again as an example. You can choose to do tin can. You can choose to do outside the borders. Somebody brings that vehicle into Nigeria. And if you can successfully bring a vehicle into Nigeria, you can have guns, torpedoes, mortars, SMGs. You can have all of these things inside your vehicle. So are we surprised that sometimes when we are accosted on the highway from here to Aho, and people are brandishing brand new AK-47s, these things are available in the open market if you are bad enough to know how to acquire them. Let us talk about open secrets. And they are not manufactured in Nigeria. So if you have an AK-47 you are using in Nigeria, and Nigeria does not manufacture AK-47, it is coming from outside. It is coming through our borders. And if our borders were well monitored, we would have a severe reduction in the amount of machines that kill, weapons of destruction that are coming through Nigeria. We also have agricultural products that are coming into Nigeria. They are not taxed. The country is losing money. And one of the reasons why now we are all over Africa, we are beginning to feel this impact of, goods and services, and we are talking about closing borders. In the old days, like oil, we were so spoiled by oil. Nigeria didn't care whether it had other ways of making money. Now the world is saying we don't need oil anymore. We are now saying, oh, where are we going to get extra money from? Okay, we must close our borders. They are all knee-jerk reactions, but I thank God we are looking at this situation now. We must begin to look at different ways that Nigeria can increase its GDP.
GDP, all right. Okay, I will come back to you. Now, he raised the point saying that the world is like, getting more and more advanced. They don't really rely on oil. Is it because of the revenue that these countries are used to is no longer efficient for the country to thrive? Is it other means of revenue generation? Or is because it is important for the country to be safe for the individuals or the citizens in that country?
Well, generally, due to technological advancements, many countries of the world are now beginning to utilize what we call green power, alternative sources of energy. Instead of oil. And therefore, naturally, the demand for oil, crude oil, will naturally reduce. We are now having solar vehicles powered by solar energy, vehicles powered by water, vehicles powered by electricity and all that, which is now being promoted all over the world. So naturally, the demand for crude oil will naturally reduce. And over the years, due to, with the discovery of oil, countries like Nigeria have been largely and majorly dependent on oil for our survival and sustenance. But in the present circumstances, we have to now, of course, look inwards at alternative sources of revenue generation. And the truth is that before the discovery of oil, countries like Nigeria were also thriving. But when we discovered oil, we forgot all these other avenues, agriculture and all of that, personal development. A country like China is doing so well. They don't have oil. They don't have natural resources, but they are doing so because they have developed themselves. They are developed themselves, and they are relying on what human resources. But because over the years, due to the oil boom in the 1950s and all that, we have just been relaxed and relied on oil. Now the oil industry is gradually declining. We must now look inward, and that's why you are now seeing all these issues climaxing at the same time. We now have to close our borders. We have to look inwards. We have to now monitor what comes in, how to increase our revenue generation. We have to now encourage and force more farmers to produce goods. But even looking at trying to encourage agricultural production, when the atmosphere is not safe enough for agricultural production, in many parts of the country and all over the world, there's so much insecurity. Where farmers plant, the herdsmen and their cattle go and destroy the crops. We should look at this issue. It's not just enough to close borders and say, don't import rice, don't import red oil, don't import frozen meat. It can lead in the long run to a serious starvation. Because in many parts of the world, there is so much crisis between herdsmen and farmers, thereby making it difficult for farmers to effectively farm. And I'm telling you the truth, many people have actually left farming because of these challenges. And when you will see someone that you love, you may advise him, please do not go into farming because of the insecurities associated with it. Herdsmen go there, other people go there, fight with them, kill them. You hear this news all over in the radios and all over. So when you are saying you want to promote agricultural industry to increase revenue, they should also look at what the security challenges. They should look at the challenges to effective agricultural management in Nigeria, and they should find solutions to this problem. It's not just enough to just close it, because when you close the borders without putting effective alternatives, they are going to lead to serious crises and challenges, making life difficult for the common man. And in all these issues, is the common man, is the poor man that suffers all these issues. So the government should do more in making these policies. The government should look at what palliative measures. That's why they need to have experts. Even in this issue of effectively monitoring our borders, it's because we fail to use experts. And because there is this lack of political will, we are not putting enough resources into monitoring our borders. There is the commitment, financial commitment is not corresponding. So it's not just enough to suddenly close the borders without alternative measures. If you continue like this, in the long run, you have not put measures on ground to encourage farmers to keep on farming. Somebody goes to farm, they kill him in the farm. The other one goes, they kill him in the farm. Then you want others to keep on farming. With time, you'll be looking at
right now,
starvation.
nobody's killing anybody right now in the farm.
But you will agree
because
with
security
me.
checks, at least they've improved the security check in the farm.
Well, you will agree with me that before it got to a climax that they now even had to be cutting grasses along the express roads. And there was so much increase in farmers, herders, clashes and all that. And these measures have not been effectively checked. So until there is effective check, effective encouragement of farmers, there should be other countries, they do what we call mechanized farming. They farm with machines. Farming is a lucrative job. But in this part of the world, farming is the poor man's job. It should not be so. So I'm saying that in the long run, it is very laudable. It is a beautiful development to close the borders. But I must tell you, you cannot close the borders permanently forever. So they should look at effective measures to do what we call effective monitoring. And monitor what comes in, and at the same time ensure that there is corresponding encouragement in local production so that the masses will not suffer the brunt of all these policies. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of government was to make life easier and better for the common man.
Making life easier and better for the common man. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse, and we are taking a look at effective border check in Africa. The socio-economic and political impact have been on it for almost 1 hour or thereabout. But if you're just coming in, not to worry, just go to our YouTube channel. You get to see everything, you get to hear everything we discuss in course of this program from beginning to the end. Just log on to www.youtube.com/ITV-Radio-NG, or you can just tweet at us on our Twitter handle at ITV-Radio-NG, or on my own personal Twitter handle at Marshall Wilson, and we'll get communicating, we'll get talking. Well, you can still be part of the show, yes, via the internet. All you need to log on to www.itvnigeria.com/live to get to see what we are doing. Call it live streaming if you want to call it that. Go TV channel 107, Star Times channel 130. You see, we've got you covered. Right now, we're about to commence our descent on this program. Though border check is on, we've talked about it not being effective in the part of Africa, in this part of the continent. Talked about us evolving into what is there in other claims about border patrol and all that. But do you think that political willpower is what is really lacking in all this?
Yes, I'll say there's a lack of will, because, sorry to say, Nigeria tends to excel when things are not working. Currently now with the border controls, you will agree with me that somebody is making a lot of money from these goods that are being illegally imported. When there's fuel scarcity, trust me, somebody is making a lot of money from the hardship of Nigerians. This is just the way Nigeria works. We don't go and deal with issues.
People may differ with that opinion and view of yours.
That is fine. We just heard about medical tourism, for example. Why don't we ban medical tourism? You know, why don't we ban people who take their children to school abroad if their parents are government officials? You know, little things like this tell you that something is wrong. It is not rocket science to be able to patrol our borders, to know that you must have all-terrain vehicles, you must have boats, you must have light aircraft to patrol your borders. You cannot patrol the expanse of land that is the border of Nigeria by somebody just staying in semi border. Let us be real. It's not going to work. You know, so we need proper political will. If a senator or a House of Rep member says today, well, look, you know what? Let us pass a bill that says we will not be getting the kind of money that we get. Let us remove the dress allowance, inconvenience allowance, the allowance for driver, for new clothes today. We will no longer be in committees. If you are in the committee, there's nothing special that comes. Let us remove all of this. We'll gather all this money. Let us go to Ojomo's local government and go and build a state-of-the-art hospital. That would be nice. But there's no will to do a thing like that. Let everybody decide today. There will be no more Esther code. All this money, they will gather it. They will go and build one state-of-the-art road from Benin to Lagos. That road for 10 years, it will not spoil. It can be done, but there is no will. Okay, we will decide today we are going to gather our resources. We will properly resuscitate Nigeria Airways so that we can also compete in the international airspace, and Nigeria will make money from Nigeria Airways. We all know the story of the resuscitation of Nigeria Airways a few months last year. We know what happened, how fake companies were set up in England. At the end of the day, Nigeria Airways never rose from the ashes. People made money from that process. We can keep giving many examples of this type of bad behavior in Nigeria. But the truth is that we see it, we condone it. There's even bad behavior presently going on in Edo State, but let me leave that issue. So the issue is this: there's just bad behavior everywhere in this country. You know,
but we still have some good behavior.
People will cut grass for 50, 500 million.
We still have good behavior in Nigeria.
In my house,
yeah,
and I know what it costs to cut grass. So there's just so much bad behavior. Yes, there's good behavior. Yeah. This forum today, this is good behavior. This is good behavior that is happening here. So the truth is that Nigerians have to understand one thing. There is no leader that is going to solve your problem. You are a leader. Whether you are riding Okada, whether you are the one selling recharge cards somewhere, we are all leaders. We all have this responsibility. You can't sit down somewhere. The person who is a leader today was a common man yesterday. So we all have the responsibility to say enough is enough. And trust me, when Nigerians are ready and they say enough is enough, nobody is going to tell you that enough is not enough.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Louis Ojomo. You're going to have the last bite on this discourse. What do you think Africans should do to really cash in on this check in our borders to make it more effective and efficient, so that even in the short run, on the long run, the masses will benefit?
Well, there are a plethora of actions that should be taken. First of all, we can actually learn from the developed countries. As my learned senior have said, they have made landmark achievements in terms of effectively monitoring their borders. We can learn from them. We don't need to start to learn from our own mistakes and all that. Then secondly, during this short term, there should a normal thing should be, there should be what? Price regulation, price control, not for goods to just skyrocket at an astronomical rate because the borders are closed. There should be some level of regulation of prices. And I want to say thirdly that when these policies are made, it should be made in a way that to the common man it is seen as fair and equitable. When you are banning rice, you are banning frozen chicken that the common man can buy. You should also prohibit medical tourism. You should also prohibit people from traveling abroad to study. When you prohibit these things, then our leaders will be forced to build efficient hospitals that will benefit the common man, because at the end of the day, we don't have any other country. When you do things like you close the borders and all that, and it's not having a positive effect on the life of the common man, I feel that is not what the overall or holistic aim of government. So when they are making these policies, they should also balance it in such a way that it's not just only endemically affecting the common man, but it's also what affect the big man out there, so that at the end there will be universal development in our country. So as you are banning rice and banning turkey, they should also ban medical tourism. They should also prohibit our leaders from sending their children to go and study abroad, because at the end we have universities in our country, we have medical institutions in our country, but because they are underdeveloped, if they have headache, they travel out there. but the common man may die in the hospital. He may not even be able to afford the common hospital. So our resources, there's so much money in this country, should be utilized for the benefit of everybody and to develop what our own infrastructures.
Thank you so much, Barrister Edoro Iboigbe. Thanks to both of you for your wonderful analysis. Our time is up, but mind you, whatever they say here on this platform is their own opinion. It has nothing to do with ITV. They do their best. We also do our best possible to make sure the rules and regulations governing the airwaves. Tomorrow at about 1:30 is International Forum. You wouldn't want to miss what we have in store for you. Do keep a date with us. Bye for now.